For decades, the British royal family has embodied the ideal of stability, tradition, and discretion. To the public, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip represented an unshakable union, a partnership rooted in duty and love. But as Princess Anne's emotional interview recently revealed, behind closed doors, the royal marriage was far more complex than the polished image projected to the world. Their story is not about betrayal or resentment, but about sacrifice, adaptation, deep companionship, and the quiet heartbreak of choosing duty over personal happiness. The separation of Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth in their later years was never meant to be a scandal. It was an act of mutual respect. Understanding it requires a deep dive into the historical, emotional, and personal dimensions that shaped their extraordinary life together. Prince Philip was born into a turbulent world. Born on the island of Corfu in Greece in 1921, his early life was marked by dramatic upheaval. His father, Prince Andrew of Greece and Denmark, was exiled when Philip was still a baby, forcing the family into a precarious existence in exile. They moved from place to place across Europe, living modestly, sometimes even in near poverty, a stark contrast to the golden aura surrounding most royals. Philip's mother, Princess Alice of Battenberg, suffered from mental health challenges and spent years in psychiatric institutions. His sisters married German aristocrats, some with Nazi connections, isolating Philip further from British aristocracy during World War II. His father eventually left the family, living a dissolute life in Monte Carlo. Essentially, by adolescence, Philip was a man without a true home, surviving on resilience and adaptability. This rootlessness shaped his character, fiercely independent, emotionally reserved, and determined to forge his own destiny. It would also make him both a perfect and a difficult consort for a future queen. Princess Elizabeth, by contrast, lived a life of duty from birth. Groomed from an early age to eventually inherit the throne, she was sheltered, serious, and profoundly committed to her role. When Elizabeth met Philip during a tour of the Royal Naval College in Dartmouth in 1939, she was just 13. Philip, 5 years her senior, was tall, blonde, athletic, and dazzlingly different from the reserved young men of the British court. Their bond, once formed, deepened over years of letters exchanged during the chaos of World War II. Philip's humor, boldness, and energy captivated Elizabeth, offering her a vision of life beyond the confines of court protocol. But to the British establishment, Philip was a problematic choice, a foreign prince, relatively penniless, with suspicious German ties. Yet Elizabeth was unwavering. Against all political pressure, she chose him. Their marriage in 1947 was a symbolic rebirth for a war-weary nation, a celebration of love, renewal, and tradition. The early years of marriage were among the happiest for Philip and Elizabeth. Living in Malta between 1949 and 1951, while Philip served in the Navy, they enjoyed a semi-normal life, free from the constant scrutiny of the British press. They danced at balls, hosted friends, and explored their relationship without the burdens of royal duty. However, the death of King George VI in 1952 shattered that idyll. Overnight, Elizabeth became queen at just 25, and Philip's life changed irrevocably. He was forced to resign from the Navy, the career he loved and the source of his personal identity. His role became undefined. Not king, not ruler, but the Queen's consort, perpetually one step behind his wife in public engagements. For a man who valued agency and independence above all, it was a brutal adjustment. There were other slights too. The decision to retain the House of Windsor name, rather than adopting the Mountbatten surname, caused profound resentment. Philip famously quipped, "I am the only man in the country not allowed to give his name to his own children." These early sacrifices laid the foundation for a marriage that was enduring, but not without tension. Philip adapted, but not without private struggle. The 1950s and 1960s were boom years for the monarchy, but privately, the cracks were evident. Philip, robust and restless, chafed against the stiff, archaic traditions of court life. Elizabeth, while loving, was often consumed by her role as sovereign. Rumors about Philip's affairs began to swirl in the tabloid press. His friendship with stage actress Pat Kirkwood, his rumored association with Russian ballerina Galina Ulanova, and whispers of discreet flirtations fueled gossip. The palace remained silent, and no concrete evidence ever emerged. Still, the existence of such rumors underscored the emotional distance that occasionally grew between the Queen and her consort. It's important to note that even if Philip's loyalty sometimes wavered in private moments, his public loyalty never faltered. He understood the stakes. He knew his primary role was to support the Queen, to bolster the institution of the monarchy, even at the cost of personal happiness. Fast forward to the 2000s. With their public duties winding down and physical stamina waning, Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth made a decision that surprised many insiders: to live increasingly separate lives. In 2017, at the age of 96, Philip officially retired from public duties. He chose to live at Wood Farm, a secluded house on the Sandringham estate. Far from the grandeur of Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle, Wood Farm was rustic, private, and, most importantly for Philip, normal. At Wood Farm, Philip could live as he pleased. He could paint, read, walk the grounds, ride his carriages, and entertain old friends informally. The stifling formality of royal life was left behind. Meanwhile, Queen Elizabeth remained at Buckingham Palace and later at Windsor Castle, continuing her official duties. To the public, this living arrangement seemed odd. Was their marriage in trouble? Was this a quiet, unofficial separation? According to Princess Anne's tearful interview, the answer is far more poignant. It was an act of mutual compassion. After a lifetime of shared duty, Elizabeth allowed Philip to reclaim a slice of personal freedom. It was a gift, not a rejection. They respected each other's needs, Anne said. After so many years of sacrifice, it was a kindness to allow Papa the peace he craved. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck in 2020, everything changed. For their safety, Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth reunited at Windsor Castle, isolating together for months. Royal insiders noted how the enforced intimacy brought them closer again. Without the demands of public life, they reverted to a simpler rhythm: daily walks, shared meals, quiet evenings reading. It was a final gift from fate. Time to reconnect, to enjoy the simple companionship that had sustained their marriage for over 70 years. During this time, Philip's health declined. He was hospitalized several times in 2021, and on April 9, 2021, he passed away peacefully at Windsor Castle, 2 months before his 100th birthday. In her candid interview, Princess Anne revealed details that had never been publicized. Tears welled in her eyes as she described her father's private struggles, the immense sacrifices he made for the crown, and for her mother. Anne spoke about her father's intense frustration at being perceived as the man walking 2 steps behind, when in fact, he was the engine driving much of the monarchy's modernization. His work to reform the royal estates, his commitment to environmental causes, and his tireless schedule of public engagements were often overlooked. He wasn't just supporting the Queen, Anne said. He was protecting her, protecting all of us. Anne also emphasized that her parents living apart was not a sign of rupture, but of extraordinary emotional maturity, a choice few couples could make without resentment. They loved each other fiercely, Anne concluded, but love isn't always about being side by side every day. Sometimes it's about giving each other space to breathe. That's real loyalty. Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's marriage remains one of the longest in royal history. But its true achievement lies not in its length, but in its depth. Their bond weathered global wars, personal scandals, political upheavals, and profound personal sacrifices. In a world obsessed with fairy tale romances, theirs was something rarer, a real, complicated, profoundly loyal partnership. Their story teaches us that true companionship is not about perfect happiness. It's about endurance, empathy, and the quiet strength to honor each other's needs, even when those needs diverge. Their later years, living separately but connected by an unbreakable bond, embody a kind of love that transcends traditional narratives. Not flashy, not fairy tale perfect, but deeply, unmistakably real. In her emotional interview, Princess Anne shattered the myth of the perfect royal marriage while revealing something infinitely more powerful. Two human beings, bound by duty, love, sacrifice, and an unwavering commitment to each other and their country. In their separation, we find their greatest intimacy, and in their enduring loyalty, we find an example not just for royals, but for all of us striving to navigate the complexities of love, duty, and identity in a complicated world.